Greetings, Chag Sameach and Shabbat Shalom, Good Shabbos. This wonderful Purim of 5781 of the year 2021, in celebration of the indomitability of the Jewish spirit as it has been manifested throughout world history. Ever since Hashem arrived at that wonderful covenant with Abraham Avinu, and of course it was later finalized under the God-given aegis of Moshe Rabbeinu, of Moses, our teacher, several hundred years later. In commemoration of that, the indomitability of the human spirit in general, but more specifically, the insuperability under God's care of every Jewish group on earth. In commemoration of that, I want to direct our attention to one of the greatest Jewish poets of all time. This time he's not in the medieval period or the Middle Ages, not even in the Renaissance or the Haskalah, not immediately after the French Revolution, nor did he live during the effervescence known as the Romantic literature explosion of the early 19th century. He actually is a modern. Bialik Chaim Nachman, well, Bialik is his surname, his last name, Chaim Nachman Bialik. You'll find the entry Bialik in any good Jewish encyclopedia. Chaim Nachman Bialik was born in 1873 in an obscure area in what is today Russia, and died about 61 years later in Tel Aviv. He was born in 1873, died in 1934. He had already gone through the great crucible, the forge of suffering, which was apparently just another day at the office for the average Jew. We all know about the pogroms that were rife in the time of the Russian Empire, which had increased with ferocity under Nikolai or Nicholas II. The sad thing is that the greatest of our travails were still 9 to 10 years away. Bialik having died in 1934, on his death, or at his death, there was a great assemblage of Jewish personalities, luminaries, celebrities, paying their respects. In fact, it's reminiscent of the death of a great sage among the ultra-Orthodox in Jerusalem today. Avenues were thronged with those who wished to pay their last respects to this wonderful Jewish mind and heart. See, Bialik was a great poet. He was chiefly responsible, or one of the pioneers, in reviving Hebrew as a spoken language. He was 7 when his father died. Circumstances then subjected him to the influences of poverty, which were accompanied by learning in the yeshiva and kollel, and that communion with nature for which the Breslovers are so celebrated. Although Bialik was not a Breslover, he was drawn to that hitbodedut, to the contemplation of nature while thinking of, or one's surroundings, while giving praise to Hashem. Later, he read medieval philosophy and mysticism. Of course, mysticism here would apply to Kabbalah. He sought to perfect his craft as a writer of stories, poems, essays, all penned in Hebrew. And at the famed Rabbinical Academy of Volition, he received a deep grounding in the Talmud, so he was a Talmud and a great Talmud student. His first poem was published in Odessa, Ukraine in 1892. He was a teacher among other occupations, but kept writing steadily, and in 1900 helped to establish a publishing house. To escape the Bolsheviks, he went to Berlin in 1922, and, of course, that didn't work out. He then hied it to Tel Aviv in 1924. He visited the United States in 1926. Bialik's early poems were mainly concerned with the dark plight of the Jewish people in Russia. The outstanding long poem of this period was The Talmud Student, which is still read. It glorifies the youthful day and night readers of that great body of literature, the Talmud Torah. Often he decried the helplessness and futility of his people in the face of growing persecution. But he was able to write light songs for children, folk songs, legends in verse, and prose works on Jewish legendary, all published in Tel Aviv. Many of these poems have been ably translated into English, and one of the better volumes of Bialik's complete poetic works was published not long after World War II. Chaim Nachman Bialik entered the world in obscurity. But because of his passionate devotion to the mitzvot, as given to us by Hashem, and his lifelong dedication to learning and the art of poetry, he exited this world almost to the trumpet fanfare of hundreds of thousands of adoring fans. Hashem truly moves in mysterious ways. We all know the story of Esther, which we celebrate this week. It seems that Hashem specializes in raising out of obscurity certain lights that he requires at any given moment. We're all familiar with the Yosef cycle, the story of Joseph in Bereshit or Genesis. On and on and on. David, how he was hounded down, persecuted by King Shaul. The list goes on. It pleased Hashem to bless the world with the writings of Chaim Nachman Bialik. And to that, as a fellow Jew, I have only to say, Baruch Hashem, Chag Sameach, Shabbat Shalom. Thank you.